What's going on, everybody? Coach Mike here, and this is Strength Coach Thoughts. If you like the headbands I wear, they are vertical athletic headbands. Use code Coach Mike for 15% off your order. They are active cooling headbands. So as they get wet, you rinse them out, or you wring them out, excuse me, and then you shake them around a little bit, and they start actively cooling. So real nice in the summer, real nice in the heat, especially here in Texas. It's very hot, very humid the past couple weeks. These headbands have done great to cool me off here in the gym. So, again, use code Coach Mike for 15% off your order at verticalathletics.com. So, today's episode, I'm going to talk about a very contentious topic. I know I say that about most of my topics, or a few of my topics, I should say, but this one I feel is a little more contentious than others. Do athletes, just general athletes, do athletes need direct core training? Right. I wrote a team builder article on this. Um, and basically, long story short, no. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. No. So, short answer is no. Most athletes do not need direct core training. And by direct core training, I mean sit ups, crunches, bicycle things, little side to side, like your six pack exercises. No. Most athletes do not need to do those. Russian twists, flutter kicks, knee tucks, whatever crap you're coming up with for that. Most of it's a waste of time, especially if you don't have a lot of time or a lot of space in your weight room. It's kind of a waste of time to use it on core training. Now, am I saying that the core should not be trained? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. The core definitely should be trained, and the core needs to be trained in order to keep up with the demands of the sport, keep up with the demands of growth, with your lifting progress. In order to be able to function as an athlete, your core needs to develop. My argument is that there are better ways to do that, and we already do that in better ways. Um, so I want you to think of something. I want you to think about somebody doing a plank, right? And I use plank because my experience with the military and then a lot of PE programs that I've been a part of. The plank is kind of the gold standard of core training, and like if you can do a plank for X amount of time, then your core is strong or something. I don't know. Here's where I'm a little skeptical of that. In my time as a in the military setting, my job is to get soldiers or airmen or whatever to pass their PT tests. Now, anytime that you're trying to train somebody to pass a test, it's not necessarily, we are developing their physical capacity, yes. But if we're trying to max out a score, there are tips and tricks we can use to basically cheat the test, right? Is it cheating? No, because the tests are kind of arbitrary in themselves, and I could go into a whole nother podcast on military physical assessment testing and kind of how they miss the mark largely. Um, but that's a different podcast. So, with the plank, right, using it as a gold standard for core strength and stability or whatever. Here's the problems with that. The techniques that I teach a lot are if you get in a plank position, okay, you can shift most of your weight forward on your shoulders without disqualifying yourself based on the criteria, right? So 9 times out of 10, your criteria is hands in a certain placement or distance apart from each other, and then your hip either sagging too low or piking up a little bit too high. Those are typically your criteria. Sometimes there's feet criteria, whether your feet are touching, feet are not touching, whatever. But those are typically your criteria. So just by manipulating your body, where your body at, where you're shifting your body weight, you can recruit different muscles to basically extend the amount of time that you can do the test for, largely indefinitely. And what I mean by that is if you're doing a low plank right down in your elbows, I can rock myself forward so most of my body weight is like on my shoulders, on my arms. Like I'm front loading my body weight. Am I using my core? Not really. I'm taking it off my legs and hamstrings to let them rest. Then once my upper body is tired, I can shift my weight back. And again, I'm not picking my butt up or dropping my butt down or moving anything. I'm just shifting my weight forward and backwards, which is allowed in most testing. Um, I'm shifting my weight back, and now I'm loading my glutes, my hamstrings, my quads. I'm loading my legs, right, and my hips. Am I using my core? I'm taking it off my upper body to give my upper body the rest. I can sit in the back there for as long as I need to let my upper body recover, and then I shift back forward. I can keep going back and forth as long as I have the mental fortitude to do that. Have I assessed my core strength? Absolutely not. I took my core almost completely out of it. Because in the plank, the core is the weak link there. But ironically, that's what everybody thinks they're training. Um, I mean, sit-ups. We know sit-ups are mostly a hip flexor dominant exercise. There's really not a lot of um, transverse abdominis. There's no oblique. There's no like. There's erectors that are kind of stretching and flexing and everything, but they're not really training. It's mostly a hip flexor strength exercise. Yes, you can make an argument about how you're doing your sit up or crunch or whatever you want to call it, whether that's attacking your core or not. But at the same time, we're not strengthening the core with a lot of these body weight exercises. We're if anything, we're getting more muscular endurance with the core because we're only manipulating a percentage of our body weight. And again, it's a percentage because if you think about like, okay, if I'm teaching somebody a push up, right? I'm going to put their hands up on an elevated surface because this takes away the amount of body weight that they need to manipulate, right? Because it puts me at a higher angle, which then loads a little bit more into my legs, which allows me to take some of that body weight off. When I'm laying on the ground and I'm sitting my trunk up, I'm not. I mean, I have half my body supported by the ground. Yes, it is a crunch motion, but I have no resistance. I have no there's no overload. There's no accommodating resistance to that. There's nothing strengthening my core. When you start doing 20, 30, 50 reps that people do of core training, you are in hypertrophy. You are in, we are training endurance in that phase. We're not training muscular strength of the core. And that is, again, this podcast is about athletics and about weightlifting um, thoughts, right? I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm not interested in uh, six pack abs and all that crap. I'm interested in maximizing athletic performance in the athletes, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's, traditional sport. That is what my focus is. So when we talk about strengthening the core, we need to look at what strengthening is, right? Let's start with what the core even is. So when we talk about the core as strength and conditioning professionals, we are talking about obviously everything in the front, right? We're talking about transverse abdominis, we're talking about obliques, but then we're also talking about a 360 band around, basically from our sternum to the top of our hips, and take that 360 around the body, and that is your core. When people talk about bracing that core, ideally you're doing a 360 bracing, and you're not just bracing here to flex your abs. You're actually taking a belly breath in and getting a circumferential brace into a belt or into your body, whatever you're using. But that also includes your erectors, other smaller hip muscles, back muscles, stuff like that, that come into play in order to stabilize our spine. Essentially, is what we're trying to do with bracing the core. In addition to stabilizing the spine, though, I'm sure if you're a strength coach or you're in the profession, you've heard this adage before about a sealed full can of soda is much more stable than an empty can of soda, right? You could stand on a sealed can of soda because of all the pressure. It gets distributed, and there's substance in the middle there. There's pressure in the middle in order to equally distribute that weight. The empty soda can, there's nothing there. It's just open air that when you stand on it, it's just the structure of the can, and that's going to collapse under weight easily. So when we're thinking about bracing our body, we're trying to increase pressure throughout the body So when we take that external load, whatever that load is, let's say a squat, when I take that 500 pounds on my back, I have enough pressure created and muscular tension, but that's a whole nother thing. But I am creating enough pressure that my body doesn't collapse under the weight, right? So that is what we were talking about with bracing and um, why we brace our core essentially, right? It's keep our spine. Uh, I don't want to say safe because our spines aren't as fragile as people have made them seem to be, but keep our spines in a healthy position to help with the lift, um, and then also create intra-abdominal pressure in order to stabilize our body against the external load. So why do I say that athletes don't need direct core training? Because nowhere in there, in that concept of core training, our sit-ups, our flutter kicks, our Russian twists, our holding the dumbbell and doing the little side to side things. Like none of that is training our body for the demands that we are actually placing on it on. A lot of the demands of sport, and again, this is where I'm referencing. I'm referencing for athletes. A lot of the demands of sport require bracing, right? We are bracing and controlling our breathing and controlling our core and controlling our muscles in order to make cuts, do change of direction work, in order to make a hit or take a hit, or swing a bat or throw a pitch, different stuff like that. And we need our core to be braced in order to transfer that power through the body, whether starting from the legs, transferring that through our body into whatever we need it to. If we have a pitcher, we need to be able to take the power that we're generating with our legs and our hips and that rotational torque and be able to take that power from the legs and whip it into the arm to be able to get enough velocity behind the ball. If we're talking about a hitter hitting a ball, we need to be able to take the power and rotation from those hips and be able to translate that into the arms and trunk to be able to rotate with all of that force to be able to get an exit velocity on that hit, um, a good exit velocity. So sorry, it's 105 here in Texas, and I have a 12-inch fan blowing on me. That's all I got. So welcome to the garage. So as I was saying, so direct core training. If you've been on Instagram or any of that, you've probably seen athletes like hip throwing a medicine ball for rotational core training, or like doing weird stuff like that. Like, is that better than nothing? Yes, it's better than nothing. Is it teaching how to generate force? Kind of. I mean, I'll give you that. But are we developing core strength and stability? No. I mean, we're not. It's not enough. A 20-pound med ball is not enough stimulus for even hip throws into a wall with max velocity. It's not enough of a load to actually like develop strength in the core. We are learning how to transfer force with that movement. Yes, I will give you that. We are learning rotational patterns of how to transfer that force. So it's not just being able to generate force from the hips and from our back foot and being able to rotate and transfer that force. We are learning how to do all that through that. Yes. Are we strengthening the core? No. We don't have enough stimulus. That's how you develop musculature, is through stimulus. Um, and 20-pound med ball, which even lighter than that, because most people don't do 20s, is not enough to create that stimulus. So how do we develop the core? What's my answer? My answer is very simple. I used the squat as an example before, right? You take that 500-pound squat on your back, you take that breath in, we're bracing now, and then we're doing our sets. That way, we're creating that intra-abdominal pressure in order to not collapse under the weight of the bar. We're keeping our muscles tense. We're training our core to stay braced. We are actively bracing our core, controlling that descent, driving up in the ascent, and then we're doing reps of that or racking the bar, whatever we're doing, right? That is core training. We are training our core. If you have ever done a set of 3, a set of 5, a heavy set of squats, the next day, tell me your core isn't sore. Tell me your core isn't like on fire, like you just did a core training day. And if it's not, you're not bracing correctly. You should be bracing a heavy squat, a heavy deadlift, cleans, snatches. All of that is dynamic trunk control, dynamic core stabilization. It is the most athletic core training we can do. Rotational core, throw some split jerks in there. You're learning how to isolate your lower body from your upper body and still translate that power. An athlete that's able to dip into an athletic position, push through the ground with enough force to elevate the bar and be able to split into a lunge underneath is going to do pretty all right with most rotational or split or just power generation activities. Um, your whole core gets strong just by bracing compound movements. Now, I said at the beginning, direct core training is a waste of time, especially if you don't have time or space or equipment. I would venture to guess most people are doing block periodization within the workout. So you have an A block, a B block, a C block, whatever. I like Joe Ken's three-tier system where you have an effort-based block, a dynamic-based block, and then a volume-based block. And then you have your accessories paired in there. You rinse, wash, repeat throughout the workout for another effort, dynamic, and volume-based. But if I have a hang clean with a total lower upper, if I have a hang clean with a front squat with a overhead press, all three are significant core bracing activities that I'm going to walk away feeling like I just did a core workout and I had total body workout there, strength, power, everything. Every box is checked. Again, we're getting the work done that we need with the least that we need to do, which I hate the minimal effective dose adage, like the conversation there. But we're not fluffing the workouts up just to put stuff in. We're coming in, we're getting a whole body athletic workout done with just a few movements. We're not wasting time. We're not wasting equipment. It's all right there on the platform or in a rack. And boom, we're 30 minutes out the door, right? Warm up's done. Like we're 30 minutes out the door. That is more than enough core training because, oh, Coach Mike, what about, sports specific core training? Okay, person asking me that. Are they going to go practice their sport? Are they going to go play in their sport? Guess where their sport specific core training comes from? The practice of doing their sport. You know how you hit a ball harder? You learn how to be more powerful. You learn how to rotate with that power, and then you practice hitting a ball better. You practice the hand-eye coordination. You practice your swing. Once you're able to translate that power development that you've gotten in the gym and you dial that into your swing, guess what? Your swing now becomes more powerful. I don't need you throwing a med ball at a wall to practice that at all. I need you to get more powerful, which usually we get strong, then we elicit the power. I need you to practice your swing at practice, which should be what your hitting coach is doing. And then with that newfound power, practicing your swing, you're going to hit harder. That's physics. That's how that works. I hate to break it down that simple, but I mean, like I've said many times on this podcast, we get way too in the weeds with strength and conditioning. Make athlete more powerful, athlete becomes more powerful. Oh, but blah blah. It's like, right, you need to teach them how to use that power. If I have a lineman, who is doing 405 cleans and they're just throwing that around like nothing, they're doing 405 football cleans, reverse curl starfish cleans, cool. But then you're telling me they don't hit that hard at practice. Well, then teach them how to hit better. Teach them how to come out of their stance. That is a sport coach thing now. Like, I'm the strength coach. I've given you the tools. I put the motor in the car. Like it's done. It's fired up. It's not on me if you don't know how to drive the car now. That's what you're hired for. If you don't know how to drive the car, you shouldn't be coaching it then. You shouldn't be driving it. So as a strength coach, don't forget your job is to give them the tools to succeed. It's not your job to drive the car for them. Like I said last podcast, Scott Cochran, 60 minutes, best strength and conditioning quote ever. I get him in his Bentleys and I'm just putting spinners on him. Like, we're getting the car in the shop. Some of them, they're not all Bentleys. Some of them are, Honda Civics from the 80s. Some of them are broken down. They're lemons. And it's up to us to change the motor out, change the transmission out, change out the wheels, change out tires, change out all the everything. Like that's on us. But then when we turn the car back over, it's not on us to teach somebody how to drive it. That's not our job. And I mean, I'm not a skill position coach. I mean, I played fullback and linebacker. I'm not a linebacker or fullback coach. I'm a strength coach. So if I give you an athlete, hey, they're running faster, they're much more explosive, and they're stronger, and you're telling me, well, I'm not seeing it on the field, like I'm sorry, then you're not coaching it well. Like I've given you all the tools you need to succeed. Don't blame your inadequacy on my programming. Anyway, that's a rant. So I'm done with that rant. Long story short, do athletes need direct core training? No. How do you get core training as an athlete? Heavy compound movements, heavy squats, front squats, back squats, split squats. Don't care. Just get them heavy where you need to brace your core and actively like re-brace, right? Like every 1 or 2 reps. Like you're not getting 3 reps on one brace. That's too light. You need to be standing up, resetting, breathing in, re-bracing, and going into the next rep. You need to be bracing hard enough that you're questioning that rep. Like heavy training. You need to be able to elicit that training. So we need snatches, we need clean and jerks, we need powerful movements where like the clean is phenomenal because you need to brace your core to pull off the floor, right? So I'm gonna push off the floor. I'm gonna have my core braced this whole time. I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing. I hit my hips. As soon as that bar pops my hips, I need to unbrace my core, pull myself under that bar, rebrace my core, and then absorb that bar. I can't keep my core braced while I'm transitioning that movement. That's not how the body works. So I need to be able to unbrace, transition my body, change of direction there, rebrace, and then absorb the force of the bar plus the acceleration from gravity there. Absorb that, then stand up with a front squat now. So I'm anterior squatting this bar, which is heavier core dominant stabilization there. Then if you're throwing jerks in immediately after, I need to catch my breath, then re-brace again, dip, and then drive into that bar, keeping the bracing the whole time, or else I'm going to lose stability through my shoulders to my legs while splitting or power or whatever we're doing with or push pressing. And then if I'm doing reps of jerks, which I don't recommend athletes re-racking weights or for jerks or any of that. I don't weightlifters fine. Athletes, no, we don't need to do it. But if I'm a weightlifter, I now need to rebrace, lower that weight back down, and then dynamically catch that weight where I lose my bracing to be able to dip under the bar and then also rebrace to absorb that weight. It's a trick. It's a weird thing. It's a little parlor trick, but that's how you're supposed to reabsorb the bar. You want to talk about core training? I've just disengaged my core 3 times there to re-engage it 3 times. Like that is sport. I'm not keeping my core braced an entire match or game or whatever we're doing, whatever sport we are. I'm bracing my core to make a cut, and then I'm bracing my core to absorb a hit or make hit a spin move off a defender. Like I'm bracing and unbracing and rebracing, and I'm dynamically bracing my core as I need to throughout whatever movement I need for the sport, which is, I mean, the Olympic lifts are where that's at. Same with the snatch, right? I'm bracing as I push off the floor. As soon as I hit those hips, I need to pull myself under and rebrace to be able to absorb that or to accept that weight. If I can't stay braced or I'm going to be too slow under the bar and I'm not going to get the weight. I'm not going to get underneath. I need to rebrace because that weight's going to come down and crush me if I don't. That's dynamic trunk control. That's dynamic core stabilization. That is athletic core use. And guess what? Getting a stronger core brings out your 6-packs and your core definition and all that crap that skinny people have. But your athletes that have 6-packs or that have good core physique are strong. They are strong athletes with their core. They're doing strong compound movements, whole body movements to get that core. The ones that are, in the Globo gyms doing hours and hours of crunches, they're skinny. I mean, they're victim weight. Under 200 pounds is victim weight. You have 6-pack because you're skinny. Of course you have a 6-pack. That's like a fat dude with big arms. Of course you got big arms. You're fat. Like, what are you talking about? So if you want a strong core, you want a better core, you want a more athletic core, heavy compound movements, back squat, front squat, anything that's requiring you to brace your core. Good mornings, RDLs, bent over barbell rows, whether it's Pendlay row or just regular bent over rows. Overhead press, not bench press. Bench press is terrible because, yeah, you're bracing your core. You're also laying on a bench with your feet on the ground. Like, what are you doing? You don't need to brace your core there. I've done bench presses without bracing my core. I mean, cool. It's a little harder, but like I get more chest, which is what most people want to do bench press for anyway. It's chest and arms. So, I mean, I don't brace my core. I get more chest out of it, like literally. So, but heavy compound movements that require you to brace your core. Don't waste your time with sit-ups. Don't waste your time with all the body weight on the floor stuff. It's not going to work. Anytime you're sitting down or laying down, it's not athletic, right? Like athletics is on our feet 90% of the time. And if we're off our feet, then we're not athletic. If we're laying down on a bench, laying down on the floor, sitting down, like we're not athletic anymore. All right. So this has been Strength Coach Thoughts. I've been Coach Mike. Again, if you like these headbands that I wear, they're active cooling headbands. Use code Coach Mike, all one word, at checkout for 15% off your order with Vertical Athletics. Go to verticalathletics.com. I leave the link in the description of the video, and I will link the Team Builder article that I did as well on this topic. And please leave some comments on this video about your idea of core training and whether you think my topic, my thoughts are in line, what your thoughts are. Just leave some conversation. I do like this to be a conversation. Unfortunately, most of these podcast episodes haven't gotten enough traction yet that people are commenting on them. So if you feel I'm missing something, or you agree with me, or you completely disagree with me, whatever, just leave it in the comments. But again, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share this with coaches or athletes that you know that might need to hear this. And feel free to ask questions in the comments as well. I'll be happy to answer them. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.